Knoll Nation, welcome in here to another Renegade Report video. We'll do another 10-15 minutes on the defense and where we go forward, guys. Florida State is 0-2. You drop 2 ACC games out of the gate, so it's not even as simple as an out-of-conference loss, and you're still really in good spot for the ACC championship. You're 0-2 with a fifth-year senior or fourth-year senior quarterback in DJ Uiagalelei. Go check out our offensive video that we posted yesterday or early this morning. We really covered what needs to happen to go forward. Now we're going to do the defense. I've got my guy in here, Chris Frazier of Spear Addicts. That's at Spear Addicts right here on YouTube. Where do we even begin? Kind of with the defense. I think, offense, people expect you to do more with your talent. If you're Mike Norvell, it's kind of your calling card and things of that nature. I think defense, even no matter who your defensive coordinator is, to a certain extent, it's got to be the Jimmies and Joes. So it makes this one a little bit more interesting and different than the offensive conversation. But where do we start, man?
Well, I think the biggest question mark that this defense still has is everyone's anticipation of technically the focal of this team was going to be the defensive line. You've got Daryl Jackson coming in, who's this physical specimen who gets off the bus or on the bus or just walks around Winn-Dixie or Publix and looks like an NFL player. And for some reason, he's not playing like he's one. And then you've got Joshua Farmer, who also meets the criteria of being a physical specimen and who has done very well for us in the past couple of years as a fill-in, and also when he had to fill in for a long period of time for Fisk. So the question mark is the biggest question mark I think fans are asking is, what is it with those two? Is it because they got paid? Are they not hungry anymore? Is the appetite gone? That's a big portion of the question, and I would completely write that off. But the only difference that has been made is that they have been paid, and now it does look as if there is no appetite. So I think we're really missing the Fisk and the Gerald inverse, but we were pretty sure on what we had with these other two guys coming in to be the starters. And first off, what is the issue in that? And then second off, what are your thoughts on Lyons, the way he came in and played?
Ooh, man, you read my mind, I swear, when we do these things. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I can't lie, and not to talk any crap about anybody's opinions. The hate and criticism and stuff lofted towards NIL and that side of it really kind of gets under my skin. But it's fair. You got to listen to it. It's a fair criticism, and yeah, you have to wonder. You see the pictures of them unloading 2 Lambo trucks off a flatbed. And things of that nature. This isn't normal. It's a brand new thing in college football. NIL, especially the past couple of years, has came up. But I know where we were at and what was the crossroads this program was at when you were going from 2022 to 2023, and Ingram and Battleton stepped up. We never have last year without that. And we don't get to where we are with the high school recruiting and things. I think that's something that can be talked about, but there's only so much we can say. So, yeah, I think that probably has part and parcel to do the motivation, given 100% and things like that. Like that is part of it for sure. But I think more than anything else is just losing the leadership, losing the people, the Braden Fisks, the Jared Verse, everybody that kind of set the tone. We were talking on the phone last night, and it's like, how many 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 5s has this defense gotten guys in the past two games? Well, when we had Jermaine Johnson, it's not like the whole line would just blow up on that 3rd down. No, 3 guys would get blocked most of the time, and Jermaine Johnson would get a sack, and that's it. He made a play. Braden Fisk or Jared Verse, whoever the case may be, we don't have somebody out there doing that this year. It's everybody's looking for somebody else to make a play. And I think just mentally overall, whether it's because you have money in the bank, whether it's, because you don't want to get hurt for the NFL, there's an intensity and a step missing. We can have the conversation about recruiting before we get out of here. That's fine. NIL, all the things of that nature. But what I do know is this defensive line is insanely more talented than Boston College and Georgia Tech's defensive lines. the difference with physicality and all those things. Nick Saban, Pete Thamel, Andy Staples, all of us, James, the coaching staff, the whole beat, like we weren't crazy with what we saw. And you go back, these guys, sure, they were 3-stars and things coming out of high school. Some have hit the transfer portal and that, but we've seen this coaching staff do it. We have seen them develop guys into first, second, third round draft picks on the defensive line. Daniel Lyons, I think it should probably be him in 44. I'm just going to start calling him 44 until he earns the single digit. I think it should be 95 and 44. And then start giving spoon feeding Daryl Jackson reps, see if he's got it in there. But yeah, I agree. Really like Daniel Lyons. And, like we said on the offensive video, it's going to be a bit of a youth movement across the board. And we'll get into the rest of the positions, but yeah, a lot of youth that I like to see. And as far as him, yeah, let's get down. Daniel Lyons, he's the one tackle right now we got that's been brought in and developed outside of that front four that there's some potential there. Whatever you can do to feed him some steroids, for lack of a better term, to see if he can be that guy by the end of the year, or at least by Miami on the 26th. I'm all for it. So start 95.
Yeah, and I think it's very important that everyone understands that we kind of knew we were going to be a little bit slim at linebacker this year, and that's based off of recruiting. I haven't shied away from there's a specific coach at Florida State that needs to step up. He's had his opportunities to step up. I personally believe, and this is not the Renegades' opinion, this is mine. Randy Shannon has completely crapped himself. Like, he's just not done a good job. I think that his best recruit has been, you have to give it to the California kid and Nichols. So I don't hate that specific recruit, but Cryer coming in from the portal was a big deal. I think that he has earned more reps. I think that based off of the first game, you had to give Nichols more reps, but it is what it is. DJ Lundy is being asked to do too much in coverage. He is not a coverage linebacker. That is not Kalen DeLoach. And them trying to make him Kalen DeLoach isn't fair to him. I think you can put Nichols in coverage, and he's going to cover people just like a safety. So there is some coaching issues. They're still learning their team, and it's showing. It's showing that we don't know everybody the way we should, or we hoped to. So we'll see how that continues. But other than the expectation, the reason the defensive line looks or feels like it's the worst situation is because we expected them to be the best situation on the entirety of the team. But when you look at the linebacker situation, you're asking your secondaries to do a whole lot at that time too. Like, if your linebackers aren't doing their job because the defensive line's not doing their job, shit goes downhill. And a lot of people were like, well, that's going up to defense. No, that's coming down to defense. So shit's rolling downhill. And unfortunately, we're not doing what's necessary on the line. And then if we're not doing what's necessary on the line, you got guys trying to overcompensate the linebacker position. And then when guys move from home from the linebacker position, then guys like Shaheem Brown have to move from his home and start doing something he's not supposed to have to. So I think that, it's unfortunate. But what linebacker have you been most impressed with out of the ones that have played? Have you been most impressed with the young guys, or who?
Blake, baby. Blake. He is Blake has really, really impressed me. To me, he's been the guy that's been the toughest, given the most consistent effort out there, and looks like the most natural linebacker. Juice didn't play at all the first game. I rewatched that one way more than I rewatched the second one. So I don't have a ton on what Juice did, but I do want to see him more. It was kind of crazy the answers you got for the rotation in the first game. I feel like they showed up and Georgia Tech did something that a couple linebackers just were not ready for. Like, somehow they just caught him napping, and that had to do with why Omar Graham was so confused as well. So yeah, definitely the most impressed by Blake, but yeah, that's the Renegades opinion as well, man. We've talked about it for the past 2 years. When it came time, we were both upset, kind of, that it was extended. Thought it could have been better. We didn't raise a crazy bitch, because it is what it is. Like, we trust Mike Norvell, continuity's big, all these things. But it was disappointing at the time. We're just not going to bitch about it every single day of the year. But he has not done it in high school recruiting, and he has not done it in portal recruiting. Like, he was forced with a gun to his head to bring in Cam Riley and Sean Murphy this year. So I was feeling kind of happy about that. But the high school stuff still ain't there. He landed a couple guys, but nothing special, nothing that Randy Shannon, can hang his hat on. Nobody that's came in is just an absolute beast as a freshman. Juice looks like he could possibly be that guy, but here's a guy who's a transfer. Like, yeah, he came in like a true freshman because he came out of high school, went straight there and transferred as a short term. But no, Randy, uh, I'll ask you that before we talk a little bit about the DVs and in this thing. Do you pull the trigger on Randy and give Ernie Sims the headset? Sure seems like he's the most animated coach on the sidelines. And at this point, like I know he's making $650K, but does that make a statement? Does that wake the team up? Like, oh shit, we better play for Ernie if we don't want to hit the portal when the season is.
Yeah, I think that Mike's too classy to do it. What I do, I would have called his job before the season started. But
Yeah.
what Mike's going to do is, at least at bare minimum, he's going to let this season end before he gives anybody walking papers. And I say that, but I also don't know how bad it can get. Like, we haven't seen it at its worst yet. It seems like we have, but we really haven't. I think that we should. I think that Randy's then got to the point where he's cantankerous. He doesn't open up to the players and their age group, and I think it's starting to really affect not only recruiting but also coaching. Like, he's not being able to coach them the way that they need to be so that they can be successful in the field. I think that watching linebackers get out of place, watching them not know their position correctly, watching Shaheem or AZ come down and tell them that they need to be here, here, or there, that's extremely hurtful. It makes me sick to my stomach because linebackers are, a key focal to the middle of the defense. I think people take my words for it's not as important as it used to be, as it's not important at all. It's important. It's just you don't need the Marvin Jones seniors to play linebacker anymore. You need a guy that's a little bit more agile. He's got a little bit more agility. It's more about covering a space than it is knocking the heads off of somebody. Because now at this point, you hit people in the wrong way or hit them too hard, then it's just roughing a player. It's not even the passer anymore. So I think that you have to pull the trigger at the end of the season at bare minimum. But what I would do, he would have been gone. I would have had him gone. The moment that you missed on the three linebackers that you were supposed to get one of or two of, not that it's over. Recruiting is far from over. But this play style is not helping you in recruiting. I'm glad that we have quite a few recruits coming out saying I'm still a no. I'm not worried about how we started. I think Florida State can still bounce back. All those things are great. But have you done it 6-7 games in a row yet? Have you stunk the field up playing like bums 6 or 7 times in a row? No, you've done it twice. And we were on Fox News. It has nothing to do with they don't cover sports, and they were talking about it. So Norvell's he's got his work cut out for him. But every time that I do this, every time that I start calling for coaches or I start coming after them, they prove me wrong. So I'm continuing to do the same thing and expecting the same result instead of doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So I'm hoping that this fares and these guys get it together. And then moving on to defensive end, Pat Payton wasn't.
I meant the D backs. We talked
about defensive backs. Okay. I think people are being too hard on Shaheem Brown. I think Conrad Hussey is being looked at differently than he should be. But what is your overall take on what the defensive backs look like, or what they're having to try to overachieve because of the things happening in front of them?
Yeah, you went right where I was going to kind of go with it. Like, people have talked shit about Kevin Knowles even after the first 2 games have happened. I get it, but like he's a nickel corner. He's out there like being put in jams and having to play so physical and tackle because nobody can do it in front of him. I don't think really any of the DBs have gotten the opportunity to do what their job actually will be in the NFL or even on any competent team. It's like we played Georgia State the past 2 weeks, but we haven't. So I don't know what the answer is there. If I'm Adam Fuller and I'm Pat Surtain, I'm looking at, look, if guys are going to keep doing this shit, we're going to have to figure out maybe our most physical safety that we'll probably get burnt coverage. We're going to have to put them in. We're just going to have to run one high the whole time, even do some zero looks, do straight man, come up with some exotic blitz looks. I'm not sure. They are the ones out there who aren't confused. So I want what I want out of Adam Fuller moving forward. More blitzes, more things that you can do to leverage your defensive backs because they're your best unit on the field by far. And again, in the run game, it makes them look bad when the defense is so bad. We talk about this every year. It all starts up front because when your D line is getting pushed back 2 yards and your linebackers ain't hitting the holes, it just screws everything up. But yeah, I do want your opinion on it before we get out of here. But that's the main thing. As far as particular players, I'd like to see Edwin Joseph continue to get good burn. I think he's going to be a really damn good player for us. I think this is a kind of trying time for Conrad Hussey. He's been known as a physical kind of tackling guy. So if he can find his footing here in the next couple of games, I think this kind of trial on fire could turn Conrad Hussey into like a legit big time hitting safety, and he'll gain a lot from this. I'm really excited about that group. But it's like we need to Pat Surtain me across the board. I love Odell. It's time to look at moving to the next stage of your career and, and things of that nature. I love Odell. It's like nothing, not even negative. It's just, man, what a crazy, insane run through so many coaching staffs. You've got a new team. It's time to rebuild. So when is the better time? They sold this thing on carrying the staff over with Randy Shannon and Odell and everybody together for the continuity, and you're going to carry over what you built over 4 years, the climb. Well, after 0-2, that stuff's over. It's a legitimate rebuild. That's why we've been hammering youth. And yeah, what's your last words? And we'll call this one a day. And if you want to talk DMs, we can go back to that or whatever to close it off, whatever you're thinking.
Well, I'll start with I think Pat Payton had a much better second game than he did the first game. Pat was able to do the things that we were used to seeing him do last year. But I tell people all the time, pay attention to who's on the field when this guy does make a play. And you had youth out there. You had lines beside him, and you had Carr coming up the middle. And you have to base it off of not just that player made a play at that time, but why was he able to make the play at that time? Because other people were doing their job. That's why he was freed up to make the play. So I think Pat did a phenomenal job this past game. A lot of people want to see him as a sack machine. That's not what Pat Payton is. He's a disruptor. He's a pressure guy, but he's not a sack machine. That's not his job. So I think that everybody should pay attention to what these guys' jobs are. I think Pat Payton did his. Moving on to the DBs, which you were ending with, I think that Edwin Joseph is somebody that has to continue to get burned. He plays too well not to. I think that Conrad Hussey's Conrad Hussey at this point. He's still putting hits on people, and I don't know if that's necessarily getting seen every time because he's having to mop up somebody else's mistake, but it is what it is. I think that the youth guys just have more appetite. It seems like the guys on offense and defense, the guys that we were really planning on being the foundation of this team, and I think it's reversed. I think the young guys are your foundation, and you're more so looking at the past guys move on. Unfortunately, they've mentally moved on before we anticipated that they would. We thought they would come out on fire because of what happened last year. Use that as a chip on their shoulder. Unfortunately, it hasn't. Very lethargic. That's the only thing that I can say. There's no hype on the starting group because if people will go back and watch how Brock Glenn celebrated with Portier when he scored a touchdown, that's what the guy that threw the touchdown pass should be doing. I have a problem with DJ as far as that goes. It's off the field. I don't necessarily have too many. Well, till this game, I didn't have too many things to nitpick as far as DJ, other than he was just very lethargic. There was not a lot of energy. There was no motivation coming from him. And if you look back at his Clemson days and also at Oregon State, he was very motivational. He was extremely hyped up for the game. Even when he made a mistake or someone else made a mistake, he's popping on the helmet. We're coming right back to you. Don't worry about it. It's the next play. Don't worry about the last one. You can't fix the last one. You can play the next one. This year, so far in 2 games, I haven't seen that at all. I think that we have a true leader issue. The veteran guys that we have there, for some reason, none of them want to be that leader. I don't know if it's because they're scared of the accountability that they have to take or what it is, but Florida State's got to get it figured out, and I think Coach Norvell will. The last thing that I'll end this with is for all of you that are calling for Coach Norvell's job. No, you're moving way beyond the issue. Coach Norvell is not your issue yet. I'm not saying that he could end up being a problem. Anything can happen. Look at this season so far, but Coach Norvell has done too much for the program in the past 4 years. Being this is his 5th, this is different. I'm telling you, there wasn't a coach, there wasn't a beat writer, there wasn't a national perspective that went and watched these guys and said Florida State might be in trouble. No one thought it. No one's seen it. When you've got people like Nick Saban that's been coaching this game and winning as many national titles, he has to come out and say, personnel-wise, this might be a top 5 personnel group. That's based off of what he watched at practice, not just based off of what says on the roster. So those are the types of people that I respect to listen to as far as the guys that have done it. And I think that he's done it enough. And the question mark isn't physically. The question mark is mentally what's going on.
You hit the nail on the head. Guys, some of the stuff you just don't find out until they get out there. The mentality, the sticking together, all 11 playing together when they don't know the answers, when live bullets are flying. People have talked about it's easy to, compare years. It reminds me a lot of 2017. There was a lot of hype coming out. Francois versus Bama, all these things. And even in that Bama game, it looked pretty good. He went down. It fell apart, The difference there, Jimbo was on his way out. But very, very similar. A lot of difference. He didn't want to fire any of his friends. He kept people 2 and 3 years too long. He was too loyal to his assistants. But a lot of that loyalty from Jimbo was tied up in the fact that, well, yeah, you want me to fire him, but you want me to go hire somebody for the same pay or less. You want me to go get a discount? Like, no. If I'm going to fire my buddy and I can tell him, okay, I'm going to hire Lane Kiffin to be the wide receiver coach or whatever the case may be, okay, you understand that. But not going to hire somebody who's a lesser known name out there. So the difference here is Mike. I believe that he's going to do what needs to be done. And like Chris said, maybe he waits to the end of the season to make any changes. But all these guys are on 1-year contracts for the most part, except for Atkins and Surtain and a couple others, I believe. So they're going to get some changes done. It's going to happen. And the difference is the money. The program is to a point now that Mike's going to get what he needs, what he wants to make the next step. So we're just going to have to find out. And again, we appreciate you for joining us. Make sure you are subscribed to Spear Addicts. That's at Spear Addicts right here on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed at the Renegade Report right here. You can catch me live 3 days a week. That's Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays at 7 Eastern on the Renegade Rundown. Chris runs every Monday and Thursday. They're at Spear Addicts around 8 Eastern, I believe. He usually runs 8:15. So make sure you check us out. We also have the Renegade Roast here on Mondays at 9:15. But again, go Knowles, and we're going to get this thing together, guys. It's going to be all right.
It's easy to abandon fundamentals. Easy to not communicate, not get the call. It's easy for those things to show up. And then you get to look back, and it's opportunity for regret. But everybody knows we're better than what we just put out there on that field. And that all comes down to me.